Okay, now let's take a look at what if I know what the percent I'm trying to find is, but I need to find the original number. So if they give me a problem like 32 is 40% of what number? So I'm going to set it up at the same proportion here. And how I'm going to do that is I know that 40% I can say as 40 over 100. I'll write it as 40 over 100. Set it up as my proportion is equal to, and this time I know the number, but I need to find out what number is 32 40% of. So I'll put my x down here this time. Again, after we get to this point, the hard part is just getting it set up properly. So after we do this here, I'll try to show you an easier way to remember how to do that. But we'll go ahead and cross multiply. 40 times x, or 40x, is equal to 100 times 32. 100 times 32 is, of course, just 3200, is equal to 40x. Divide both sides by 40 because it's the opposite of multiplying by 40. And whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I need to do to the other side of the equal sign. I'm left with just x on this side. And over here I have 3200 divided by 40. And let's see, that should be 8. Remainder of 0, and that gives me a 0. So 80 would be my solution for this problem. So 40% of 80 is 32. Now I said that I'd try to show you an easier way to remember this. So let's look at the different pieces of this formula. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this set up here just so that you can see and relate to what I'm talking about here. Okay, on your left side, I mean, you could do it either side, but it's good to find one method and just stick with it so you don't get confused. But if you always have your percent over 100, okay? And on this side, you're going to have the part to the whole, or the total. Let me put total in parentheses here. Okay. So as you can see, we're looking at 40%, so I'm putting the percent over 100, percent over the 100, and then the part, and we're saying 32 is part of 40. I'm sorry, 32 is part of 80. Okay, so, and that was the whole, and we had to try to figure out what was the whole in this instance. Sometimes we're going to have to figure out what is the part. Sometimes we'll have to figure out what is the percent. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to complex percents. Of course, they always get complex. If I have enough room, I'm going to try to leave this up here so you can follow this while we're working. Okay, if I needed to find something like, let's say 8 1/3% of, say 50 is what number? So if I have 50 milliliters and I'm trying to find out what 8 1/3% of that is, well, this is how I would do it. Since I'm looking at 8 1/3%, I'm going to set up 8 1/3 over 100. And this is where it looks like a complex fraction. Okay, 8 1/3 over 100. And of 50, so 50 is the whole, and I'm going to be looking for the part. So I will put 50 down in the denominator here. And this time I'm going to use n just because I'm tired of using x's. And it doesn't matter when you're using a variable, you can use any letter. But now I have it set up to cross multiply, and it won't be that difficult. But now I'm going to need more room, but you can see how I set it up using this formula. I'll go ahead and erase this formula now, and we'll work this problem out. Okay? Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just cross multiply 100 times n, which gives me 100n. Set that equal to 8 1/3 times 50. There's many different ways to do this kind of multiplication problem, and I'm going to do it the way that I'm most familiar with, which is converting it to an improper fraction and multiplying fractions. It'll be most accurate. Okay, so I'm going to, 8 times 3 is 24 plus 1, 25 thirds times, making 50 into a fraction. All I have to do is put 50 in the numerator and over 1. And of course that's still equal to 100n. 50 times 25, let me work that off to the side. 0, okay, 5, carry a 2. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So I end up with 1,250 over 3, or divided by 3, is equal to 100n. At this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And I'm going to set it up a little bit differently on this side so it doesn't look like a complex fraction. I could just go like this, divide by 100, but that does become a little bit complex. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Okay? I'm going to say I'm going to divide it by 100. So 100 over 1. Now, if you remember, how do you divide fractions? Well, you multiply the reciprocal, correct? So I'm going to have 1250 over 3 times 1 over 100, which just gives me 1250 over 300, which is a fairly simple division problem. I keep switching colors so we can follow the steps a little bit easier. I am done with these, and so I am going to go ahead and erase those. And right now we're working on 1250 divided by 300. So 1250 divided by 300 times 4 would give me 1200. And I have a remainder of 50. This 50 is still being divided by 300, which of course will reduce. I can divide them both by 50. And so my n is going to equal, divide by 50 is 1, and divide by 50 would be 6. So 8 1/3% of 100, or 8 1/3% of 50 would be 4 1/6. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stop this. This is getting a little bit long again, but we'll come right back.